He is already turning to leave when the grip hits his coat hard enough to stop him mid-step. It is not strong, not like a grown hand, but it is desperate in a way that holds more weight than force. He looks down and sees her there, barefoot in the dirt, sleeve dark with blood, breathing like she ran through something that never stopped chasing her. She does not look at the crowd, she looks only at him. "Don't leave me here," she says, and her voice is not loud, but it does not need to be. The platform goes quiet in a way that feels wrong, like something has just been placed in the center of it that no one knows how to move. Someone behind them mutters that one's dead weight, and the words hang there, ugly and easy. The sheriff spits to the side and steps forward, boots slow and heavy. "You don't touch her," he says. "She's not yours." The man does not move. He does not pull his coat away. He just looks down at her face, at the dirt, the fear, the way she is holding on like letting go means something worse than what is already here. "What's your name?" he asks. She does not answer. Her fingers tighten instead. The sheriff steps closer, voice sharper now. "She belongs to the county." The man finally speaks again, still not raising his voice. She looks hungry. A few people laugh, quick and uncomfortable. The sheriff lets out a short breath. "That's not your problem." There is a pause that stretches longer than it should. The girl tugs harder. "I can work," she says quickly, like she is bargaining with something she has done before. Someone in the crowd calls out she steals. Another voice follows, "Her father's gone mad." The man kneels slightly so he is closer to her height. "You got anywhere to go?" he asks. She shakes her head fast. "No." He studies her for a second longer than most would. There is dirt on her face, but her eyes are clear. Not begging, not crying, just holding. The silence builds again, heavier now, pressing against the edges of the platform. Then he says it. "Come with me." It lands wrong in the air. The crowd reacts all at once. "You lost your mind," someone shouts. "She'll bring trouble," another adds. The sheriff's hand moves to his belt, not pulling anything yet, but ready. "Last warning," he says. The man stands up slowly, the girl still holding his coat. He does not look at the sheriff, he looks at her. Then she turns, not to him, to all of them. Her voice cracks, but it cuts clean through the noise. "Papa." Everything stops. It is not gradual, it is complete. Even the movement of dust seems to settle. The man freezes where he stands. The sheriff blinks once like he did not hear right. "What did she say?" he asks, but no one answers. The girl says it again, louder this time. "Papa." A sound moves through the crowd, not loud but sharp, like something breaking open inside it. The man takes a small step back. "That's enough," he says, but it does not carry the same weight it did before. She does not let go. "Papa, don't leave me," she says, and now her voice is closer, more certain, like the word has found a place to sit. The sheriff moves in closer. "She's manipulating you," he says. The man does not answer right away. He looks at her, then at the crowd. Faces watching, waiting, judging, then back at her again. There is something in the way she is looking at him that does not match the moment. It feels older. Quieter. He exhales once, slow. "She stays," he says. The words land heavier than the first choice. The crowd does not react immediately this time. It takes a second for it to catch up. Then the noise comes back, louder, sharper. "You're making a mistake. She'll ruin you. This ain't your fight." The sheriff steps closer until he is almost face to face with him. "You walk out with her, you walk against all of this," he says. The man finally looks at him directly. "Then all of this is already wrong," he replies. The girl tightens her grip on his coat. "Papa," she whispers again, softer now, like the word is not meant for them anymore. The sheriff studies him, trying to understand something that does not fit. "You think you are righteous," he says. The man shakes his head once. "No. Just tired." That answer does not help. It makes things worse. Someone in the crowd throws out she does not belong anywhere. The man turns slightly, just enough for his voice to carry. "Then neither do most of us," he says. That quiets them for a moment. Not completely, but enough. The sheriff signals slightly with his hand and two men shift behind him, uncertain. They do not step forward yet. "The girl looks to take me," she asks. He does not look down at her. "Not today," he says. The sheriff hears that, and his jaw tightens. "This is not over," he says. The man nods once. "It already is for her. he replies. He turns then, finally moving away from the edge of the platform. The girl moves with him instantly, staying close, not letting go. "Walk," he says quietly. She does, no hesitation. The sheriff calls out behind them. "You leave with her, you don't come back the same." The man does not turn around. "Then maybe that's the point," he says. The crowd begins to break apart, not fully, but enough to lose its shape. People look at each other instead of them. The girl stumbles once and he catches her without stopping. She grips his hand now instead of just his coat. "Papa," she says again, but softer, like she is testing if the word still holds. He does not correct her. That is the part that changes everything. The sheriff stands behind them, watching, trying to decide if this is law or something else. The platform empties slowly, but the silence does not leave with it. It stays behind, stretched across the boards, waiting for someone to explain what just happened. No one does. The man keeps walking. "Stay close," he says. "I am," she answers, and for the first time since she ran in, she does not look back. The sheriff slams the saloon door open, and the sound cuts through the room like a snapped bone. Conversations die mid-breath. Glasses freeze in hands. Dust hangs in the yellow light like it forgot where to fall. The man at the bar does not turn. He keeps his eyes on the wood in front of him, as if the floor might answer better than people. Behind him, the girl stands small, still pressed into the edge of his shadow. The sheriff steps inside slow, boots heavy, eyes locked on them both. The room feels tighter with every step he takes. Men at tables shift without speaking. A chair scrapes once and stops. The sheriff says, "You brought her here?" The man finally speaks without turning his head. "She came with me." His voice is flat, like it has no interest in being argued with. The sheriff lets out a short breath that is almost a laugh. That is not how this works. He moves closer now, slow and deliberate, until he is standing between the tables and the bar. The room refuses to breathe. Someone in the corner mutters something under their tongue. The sheriff's eyes stay on the man. "You think you can just take what you want?" The man replies, "I didn't take anything." The sheriff reaches out and grabs his arm, hard enough to make the glass on the bar tremble. "You want war over a stray?" The girl behind him shifts for the first time, like the word cut her. The room reacts before anyone fully understands. Chairs scrape back. A few men laugh, but it is sharp and uneasy, like they are trying to cover something that already slipped out. The sheriff keeps his grip on the man's arm. "You think this ends clean?" he says. The man finally looks at him. It ends how it ends. The girl steps slightly forward from behind the man, just enough for everyone to see her face. She is not shaking. That surprises some of them. Someone in the bar says, "She should be back at the county line." Another voice answers, "She shouldn't be anywhere." The girl speaks before the room can build again. "I'm not stray." Her voice is small, but it holds. The sheriff turns his head toward her slowly, like he is deciding if she is real enough to matter. The man shifts, placing himself half in front of her without looking away from the sheriff. The sheriff finally looks at her directly. His voice drops lower. "Say that word again." The room tightens again, like it is waiting for permission to break. The girl does not move. She does not look at anyone else. She says it once more, "Papa." It is not loud. It does not need to be. Something in the room shifts immediately. A man near the window swears under his breath. Another looks away like he has seen something he does not want to remember. The sheriff exhales through his nose and steps closer. "You don't know what you are doing," he says. The man steps fully between them now. That's enough. His voice is firm but controlled. The sheriff ignores him and leans slightly toward the girl. "You're going to regret this moment." The man answers before she can react. "No, she won't." Outside the saloon, the sound of horses grows louder, shifting weight in the dark like something assembling itself. Men speak in low tones that do not carry inside but still press against the walls. The girl reaches for the man's sleeve again, fingers tight. "Are they angry because of me?" she asks. He does not look at her. "No." A pause hangs there. "Because I didn't ask permission." The sheriff inside hears that last line and his face tightens. He turns slightly toward the door, signaling without words. The tension changes again. The room understands that this is no longer a conversation. The girl watches the man's face, searching for something she cannot name. The sheriff says quietly, "This is your last chance." The man answers, "You already made your choice when you opened that door." The sheriff moves his hand slightly and outside men begin to shift closer. The sound of boots is clearer now, no longer distant. The girl feels it and grips tighter. The man finally looks down at her for a second. "Stay behind me," he says. She shakes her head once. "No." The sheriff smiles faintly inside the saloon. "You think you can stand alone against all of this?" The man answers, "I am not alone." The girl hears that and looks up at him like she is trying to understand what that means. The sheriff steps closer again, lowering his voice. "You don't own silence," he says. The man replies, "Neither do you." That line lands harder than the rest. For a moment no one moves. The horses outside shift again, restless. A man in the corner whispers that this is going too far. Another says it already did. The girl speaks softly again, almost like a question. "Papa?" The man does not correct her this time. He only places his hand over hers on his sleeve. The sheriff watches that small movement, and his expression hardens. He signals again toward the door. The men outside prepare. The air inside the saloon feels like it has reached its limit. The man looks at the sheriff and says, "If you come in here, you don't leave the same." The sheriff answers, "Neither do you." The girl does not move. She stands between what she was and what she might become, holding on to the only voice that did not turn away from her. And outside the horses finally stop moving, as if waiting for the first strike that will decide everything. Inside the saloon, no one breathes as the moment holds, waiting for a decision that no longer belongs to any single man in the room. Only silence remains before everything breaks completely and without warning. The house is quiet in a way that feels wrong, like it has been waiting too long without anyone noticing. The girl stands in the doorway and does not move forward right away. She looks inside slowly, as if the room might answer her. "This is yours," she asks without turning her head. He shakes his head once and says no, just empty. She steps inside anyway and touches the wall with her fingers. It feels cold and older than anything she expected. "It is sad," she says quietly. He does not answer her. He watches her instead, trying not to think too hard about why she is here. "You can take the bed," he says after a moment of silence. She shakes her head quickly and says, "I will stay where I can see you." He pauses at that longer than he should. "Why?" he asks quietly. She answers without thinking people leave when you sleep. That line sits in the room heavier than anything else. He turns slightly away like the house itself is listening. The wind outside presses against the windows and makes them tremble. Later she speaks from the corner where she has settled on the floor. "Do you have kids?" she asks. "No," he says. "Wife?" she asks. He hesitates too long before answering had. She nods like she understands more than she should. "Mine is gone too," she says. He finally looks at her fully. "What happened?" he asks. She shrugs once and says, "Men." Outside the wind hits harder against the house and the windows shake. Then a knock comes sharp and heavy. The man does not move right away. The girl whispers instantly, "Don't let them take me." The knock comes again louder this time. The sheriff's voice comes through the wood. "You can open the door or I break it." The man walks to the door and stops just before it. He places his hand on the wood but does not open it. The girl stands behind him, tense and silent. The sheriff knocks again harder this time and says, "I know she is in there." The man replies she stays. The sheriff says she does not stay anywhere without permission. The man answers then she stays here. The girl whispers, "Please don't let them take me." The man says without turning she is not going back. The sheriff laughs briefly and says, "You think this is your choice?" The man replies it is. The girl asks softly, "Are they going to break the house?" The man answers no. The sheriff says, "Last warning." The man leans closer to the door and says she stays. The girl repeats, "I stay." Outside men shift in the dark, preparing without speaking. The wind presses harder and the house feels smaller. The sheriff says this is not over. The man replies, "Not for her it is." The girl whispers "Papa," but does not let go of his sleeve. The silence inside the house stretches long and heavy as everyone waits for the first real movement. The man does not step away from the door, and the girl stays close behind him. The sheriff speaks again, saying, "You cannot hold what the law has already taken." The man answers, "It was never yours to take." The girl pulls on his sleeve tighter and whispers, "I don't want to go." The man looks down at her for a moment but does not move away. The sheriff says, "You are choosing a side that will destroy you." The man replies, "I already chose when I let her inside." The girl looks up and says, "I can stay." The wind outside grows louder and the windows shake. The sheriff steps back and signals to men outside. Footsteps shift in the dirt preparing. The girl whispers "Papa" softer, like it is becoming safe. The man does not correct her. He keeps his hand steady on the door. The sheriff says, "This will not end where you think." The man answers, "Nothing ends where you think it does." The girl presses closer to him as the room holds its breath. The sheriff finally stops speaking, and silence becomes heavier than words. The man remains still, not giving the door any space. The girl says, "I am not going anywhere." The sheriff replies, "You already are." The man finally speaks. She stays. The wind pushes hard against the house. The girl does not look away from him. The sheriff says, "This town will remember what you did." The man answers, "Let it remember." The girl whispers "Papa" again, like it is the only word she trusts. The man turns slightly but does not move away. The sheriff watches like he is deciding what comes next. The house remains silent as if it is listening. The girl relaxes her grip slightly but does not let go. The man says, "Stay close." She nods. The sheriff steps back, still watching. The men outside shift again. The wind keeps pressing. The girl whispers "Papa" one last time. The man looks at her fully. He nods. He says she is not going anywhere. The girl breathes out slowly for the first time. The sheriff watches from the doorway. Outside, the men stop moving. The house feels like it is holding its own breath. The girl steps closer. He does not move away. The sheriff says, "This is not over." The man answers, "It is for her." The girl whispers "Papa" and does not stop holding his sleeve and stays there. She wakes up screaming like something pulled her out of sleep by force. The sound hits the house before he even sits up. He is already moving when he hears her voice break through the dark. "There's someone in the water," she shouts. Breath sharp, body curled tight on the floor where she refused to sleep in the bed. He crosses the room fast. "What water?" he says, still half asleep but alert now. She is shaking, pointing toward the window. "There." He turns his head and looks out. Only dark yard, wind pushing through dry grass, nothing moving. He looks back at her. There is nothing there. She shakes her head hard. "No, they are calling me." Her voice is thin but certain. He reaches for her shoulder. "Stay here." The refusal is instant. It is not fear of him. It is fear of staying still. He hesitates once, then grabs his coat. Fine, outside. The night air is colder than it should be. The ground feels uneven under their steps. She stays close behind him, almost pressed to his back. The yard opens into a rough stretch of land behind the house. Broken fence, dead grass. Old silence. She stops suddenly. "There," she says. He follows her eyes. A covered well sits near the edge of the land, half swallowed by weeds and thyme. He exhales slowly. "It's just an old well," he says. She shakes her head fast. "No, it knows me." That makes him pause. He walks closer anyway. The wooden cover is old, warped, nailed in places. He puts his hand on it. It creaks under pressure. The sound is too loud in the night. She takes a step back. "I don't like it," she says. Cold air rises up from inside. Not wind, something deeper, stale and wrong. He leans, something visible, just darkness, no sound at first. Then a faint pressure, like silence pushing back. He shuts it fast. The wood slams down. "Stay away from it," he says. She does not move closer or farther. She just stares at it. "It already knows my name," she whispers. He looks at her sharply. "What did you say?" She does not repeat it. She turns away first, like the well is still looking at her even with the cover shut. They walk back without speaking. Inside, the house feels heavier. Not safer, just contained. She does not go to the bed. She sits on the floor again like she is choosing where she can see exits. He stands near the table watching her without knowing what he is looking for. After a while, she speaks. "Do dead people get tired?" He blinks slowly. "I don't know," he says. She nods like that answer makes sense. I think mine are tired, she says. The way she says mine is not casual. It is owned memory. He does not respond. A pause settles between them. Then she speaks again, Papa, too. That word hits him differently now. He stiffens. Who does, he asks. She does not look at him. She is staring at the wall. No answer comes. Only silence stretching too long. Papa, she whispers again, but this time it is not directed at him. It is not even directed outward. It is like she is repeating something already spoken somewhere else, something he cannot hear. The room feels colder without changing. He watches her face, trying to find meaning in it, but she is not looking for him anymore. She is listening. He takes a step closer. Hey, he says carefully. She does not react. Her eyes stay fixed on the wall like it is answering her. He lowers his voice. Who are you talking to? Still nothing. Then, softer again, almost to himself, Papa, she repeats. The word does not feel like speech anymore. It feels like echo. He turns his head slightly, listening for anything outside the house. Nothing. No wind now, no movement. Just stillness that feels too intentional. He kneels slightly, trying to bring her back to the room. Look at me, he says. She does not. Her lips move again. Papa, Papa, not calling, not asking, repeating, like she is responding to something that already called her first. He follows her gaze to the wall. There is nothing there. Wood, dust, age. But the way she is looking makes it feel occupied. She finally blinks and tilts her head slightly, as if something shifted in what she is hearing. I heard them before, she says suddenly. He straightens. What do you mean? She shrugs faintly, like she is not sure it is hers to explain. They said my name. That lands harder than anything else tonight. He steps back a fraction. When? She hesitates. From the water. The word water brings the well back into the room even though they are not outside. He looks toward the door without moving, then back at her. That's not real, he says, but there is less certainty in it now. She shakes her head. It was real. I was awake. That is what she says. Not dream, not memory, awake. A silence follows that neither of them breaks quickly. Then she speaks again, softer. It is under everything. He does not answer. Because something in the house feels different now. Not loud, not visible, just present. Like listening has changed it. He stands slowly. We are not going back out there tonight, he says. She nods, but she is still not looking at him. Papa? She whispers again. But now it feels like she is answering something that is no longer in front of her. He watches her carefully. This is not just fear. It is repetition. Pattern. Like something learned without teaching. He looks toward the window. The glass is still. No wind. No movement. But the silence outside feels heavier than sound would be. She speaks again without turning. It is still there, he asks quietly. What is? She finally looks at him. And for a second, her eyes do not feel like a child's eyes. Everything, she says. That answer is too large for the room. He does not respond immediately. Instead, he listens. Not to her, to the house, to what should not be there. The well stays closed outside. But it does not feel gone. She whispers again. Papa, and this time it does not sound like language. It sounds like recognition from somewhere deeper than both of them. He stands still, realizing he cannot tell anymore where her voice ends and something else begins. And the house, without moving at all, feels like it remembers too. Black carriage arrives. Not the sheriff this time. Men in clean coats step down without sound. They look like they belong to another world that forgot dust. One of them speaks softly. You have created attention. The man does not move. She is behind him now, half hidden. She grips his coat. She does not speak. The man answers she is a child. The suited man tilts his head slightly. That is not how they see her. He slides a paper across the table. The governor's family wants her moved. The man reads it once. He does not blink. She steps closer behind him. He does not move. She whispers, I don't know that house. The suited man watches her carefully. She is no longer just a child to him. She is a problem, a political one. He pushes the paper closer. A name is visible at the edge. The girl sees it and flinches. Her grip tightens on his sleeve. Papa, she says softly. The man turns slightly. What is it? She does not answer. That name hurts, she whispers. The room goes still. The men gather their papers. We will return, one says. The man replies quietly, "She is not a thing." The suited man pauses. "You are holding something dangerous." He shakes his head. "She is not something, she is someone." The men leave. The black carriage pulls away. Dust rises behind it. Silence returns too fast. The girl clings to him. "Papa, are they coming back?" she asks. He hesitates. "Yes." The girl looks down at the ground. Her shoulders tighten. "I don't know that name." The man kneels slightly to her level. "It is gone now," he says softly. She shakes her head. "It was never gone," she says. The wind presses against the house. Windows tremble slightly. The man stands again. "We should go inside," he says. She does not move. "Not yet," she says. He watches her carefully. The house feels different now. Like it is listening, inside the girl sits on the floor again. The man stands near the door. She speaks quietly. "Do you believe me now?" He pauses. "I believe you are afraid," he says. She nods slowly. "That is not the same," she says. The long silence follows. Then she speaks again. "They knew my name before I came." The man looks at her sharply. "Who?" he asks. She does not answer. The room feels colder. The man steps closer. "This is not safe," he says. She laughs once softly. "Nothing about me was safe," she replies. The man goes silent. Outside, the wind rises again. The girl stands slowly. She walks toward the window. "Do they still see me?" she asks. The man does not answer immediately. "I don't know," he says finally. She nods like expected. The knock comes again from far away. The man freezes. "They are not done," he says. She whispers, "Papa," again. The sound is different now. Less like calling, more like answering. The man turns toward the door. "Stay behind me," he says. She does not move. "I already am," she replies. The house creaks loudly. The windows shake. The man looks outside again. Nothing is visible, only movement softly. It is under everything. The man exhales slowly. "This is not over," he says. She looks at him. "I know," she replies. Her voice is steady, too steady. The man realizes something. She is not just afraid. She is remembering. A memory she never learned. The wind outside dies down slightly. The silence deepens. The girl sits again. She stares at the wall. "Papa," she whispers. Not to him. Not anymore. The man watches her closely. Something is wrong here. The knocking does not return. But its absence feels worse. The man sits near her finally. "What do you remember?" he asks. She takes a long pause. "Water," she says, "and names." The man leans in slightly. "Whose names?" he asks. She does not answer. She only whispers again. "Papa, Papa." The room feels smaller. The man stands again slowly. "We will figure this out," he says. She shakes her head. "You cannot," she replies. The house creaks again. The sound feels like a warning. The girl whispers, "Papa," one more time. This time it is not soft. The man looks at her longer now. She hesitates. Everything, she says. The man exhales slowly. That answer is not enough. The wind outside rises again. The house seems to lean in. The girl whispers, "Papa," again, then stops. She listens. So does he. Something far away answers her silence. The man steps closer. "We are leaving this room," he says. She shakes her head quickly. "It follows," she says. The man stops. For the first time, he believes her fear. Outside, something moves near the well. Neither of them speaks. The sound is not loud but present. The girl grips his sleeve again. "Papa," she whispers. The man finally looks toward the wall. No one is there. But something feels there. The house remains still, too still again. The man says softly, "Stay close." She nods but does not look away. The sound near the well fades or hides. The man knows this is only the beginning. The girl whispers, "Papa," one last time. This time it does not sound like her voice. The man finally understands something he cannot explain. The house is not empty. It remembers. And it is waiting. She listens. She refuses to sleep. The house feels wrong now in a way that does not settle. He notices it before she says anything, because she is already sitting upright in the dark, listening. "I hear them under the floor," she says without looking at him. He kneels beside her slowly. "There is nothing there," he answers. She shakes her head hard. "They are scratching," she insists. He listens again. Nothing moves in the house but the wind outside. Then a sound comes so faint he almost misses it. He stiffens immediately. She whispers, "See." At night he wakes to her voice again, speaking to empty corners. "I didn't mean it," she says once. Then again softer, "I didn't mean it." He sits up fast and looks toward her. "Who are you talking to?" he asks. She points at the wall. "To them," she says. The room feels smaller than before. He looks but sees nothing there. "Do you believe me now?" she asks suddenly, turning toward him. He does not answer fast enough. Her face changes. "You don't," she says. "You're going to leave too," she adds softer. He grabs her shoulders more firmly this time. "I'm not leaving," he says. She looks at him long enough that it becomes uncomfortable. "Promise," she asks again, but quieter. He exhales slowly, knowing he cannot afford to fail this moment. "Promise," he says one more time, finally steady. She whispers Papa again, but this time it feels different. The word no longer sounds like a name, it sounds like a signal. He realizes suddenly that she is not only speaking to him anymore. Something else is answering through her voice. The house creaks louder now, like it agrees. He steps back one final time and looks at everything around him. The floorboards beneath her shift slightly without reason. She does not react anymore. She just listens. Then she whispers again, "Papa," but softer than before, like it is being repeated back to her from somewhere else. He finally understands this is not a conversation anymore. It is something remembering her. The room feels colder than before. He stands frozen, watching her speak to nothing that keeps answering. "Papa," she says again, but now it is not directed at him at all. It is directed at something beneath the house that he cannot see. He looks toward the floor for the first time with real fear. The sound comes again, faint, like scratching under wood. She does not move at all. She only listens and repeats the word "Papa," like a response. He steps toward her slowly. "This is not safe," he says quietly. She shakes her head without looking at him. "It is already here," she says. The house settles like it has heard everything. He realizes he cannot tell any more, where her voice ends and something else begins. She whispers "Papa" one last time, but this time she is not alone in it. Something answers from under the floor. Knocking becomes breaking, like the house forgets it is meant to hold anything together. The first hit shakes the front door in its frame. The second splits something inside the wood. The third is not a knock anymore. It is impact. The girl jerks awake from the floor, and the man is already moving before he fully understands what he is hearing. "Don't let them take me," she screams before anyone even enters. The door crashes open. Cold air and noise pour in with it. He grabs the rifle from the wall in one motion. No hesitation, no thinking left. Outside shapes move in the dark. Men, too many to count clearly. Lantern light swings across the yard like searching eyes. Back off, he fires once into the air. The sound splits everything. Silence follows for half a breath. Then the sheriff's voice cuts through from outside. She belongs to record. The man steps forward into the doorway, rifle still raised. "She is not property," he shouts back. The sheriff answers immediately, "She is not yours to decide." The man shakes his head once, like he cannot believe what he is hearing. "She belongs nowhere," he yells back. That line hits harder than the shot did. Something shifts outside. Men hesitate, just for a second. Enough. Glass breaks behind him. The girl screams again, and this time she runs under the table. "Papa," she yells. The word is too sharp now, too loud. It fills the room and spills outside. Everything outside pauses, like the world is trying to decide what it just heard. The sheriff hears it too. There is a change in his voice when he speaks again. "Don't let her speak." That is when it becomes a decision for everyone. The man steps out into the yard. Rain starts without warning. Hard, immediate. The ground turns fast under boots. He moves straight into the dark without lowering the rifle. "Try me," he says. The sheriff stands near the edge of the yard under a swinging lantern. His coat is soaked already. "You can't protect what you don't understand," he calls out. The man laughs once without humor. "Try me again," he repeats. Then everything breaks at once. Men move in fast. Not careful, not organized anymore, just force. The man meets them head on. The rifle becomes a threat more than a weapon. He uses it to push, to shove, to keep space between him and them. One man swings and misses. Another grabs his arm. He drives an elbow into ribs. Someone yells. Someone falls. The rain makes everything louder and slower at the same time. The sheriff stays back watching, like he is measuring the outcome instead of fighting in it. Inside the house, the girl is still under the table. Her hands cover her ears, but she still hears everything. The word Papa echoes in her head even when she is not saying it. She says it again without meaning to. Papa. Outside, the man hears it too. He hesitates. That is all it takes. A fist catches him in the side. He stumbles but does not fall. He swings back. Hard, dirty, no technique left, only refusal. The yard becomes chaos. Mud, rain, shouting, boots slipping, bodies colliding. The sheriff finally moves closer but does not fully enter the fight. He watches for control more than victory. Inside, the girl whispers again, "Louder now, Papa." Outside, several men freeze for half a second, like they heard something they were not supposed to hear. That pause is enough for the man to push one back and break free toward the house. He does not win the fight. He breaks it. He stumbles back inside and slams the door shut behind him. The noise outside continues, but now it feels farther away, not gone, just held back. The girl is still under the table shaking. "Did I do something bad?" she asks immediately when she sees him. He drops to his knees in front of her. "No," he says fast, too fast. "No, you didn't?" She does not believe it yet. Her eyes are wide and searching his face like it might change. "Then why does it always start when I say it?" she whispers. He stops. That question does not have an answer he can give her. Outside, shouting continues, but it is less certain now. More confused. The sheriff's voice is still there but weaker, like control slipping through fingers. The man stays kneeling in front of her. "You didn't cause this," he says finally. She looks at him longer than she should for a child. Then softer, almost broken. "But I said it." He does not answer immediately. Because part of him knows she is not wrong about the pattern. Something responds when she speaks. Something outside them. He stands slowly and looks toward the broken door. Rain is still falling outside. The fight is not fully over, but it is no longer clean or directed. He turns back to her. "Stay here," he says. She nods, but her eyes do not leave him. As he steps toward the door, she whispers again behind him. "Papa." This time he does not correct her. This time he just hears it as something that does not belong only to her anymore. And he walks back outside, into whatever is still waiting in the rain. He digs, not outside, not as a search. Inside the house, like the floor has been waiting to be opened again. The boards come up slow, nails old and resisting like they don't want to give anything back. Dust rises in thick breath-like clouds. The girl stands behind him the whole time without speaking. "What is that?" she asks. He doesn't answer at first. He just pulls a small wooden box free from under the floor. Old, darkened with time. His hands hesitate before opening it like his body remembers something before his mind agrees. He opens it, letters, folded, some sealed, some already broken open. A few papers with names written too carefully, like someone was afraid of the ink itself. His face changes the moment he sees the top page. The girl notices immediately. "You know them," she says. He doesn't answer. His eyes stay on the paper too long, too still. Then he whispers, "I knew your mother." Silence drops so fast it feels like the house stops breathing. The girl steps back. "No," she says instantly. "No, you didn't." He shakes his head slowly, still not looking at her. "I did." Her voice tightens. "You're lying." He finally looks up at her. "I didn't know you existed." That lands wrong in her face. Like something inside her shifts and doesn't know where to go. "Then why do I know your voice?" she whispers. He freezes, completely. The question does not sound like confusion. It sounds like memory. Before he can answer, she suddenly covers her ears hard. Her body curls inward. "They're screaming again," she says. He steps forward. "Who is screaming?" She shakes her head violently, not answering, not processing, just reacting. He looks back down at the letters. One is open already. The ink is faded but still sharp enough to read parts of it. His hand starts to shake. Outside, the wind rises again, harder than before, pressing against the walls like it knows what is happening inside. Inside, the girl whispers again through her hands. "You were there." He looks up fast. "I wasn't." Her head snaps toward him. "You were," she screams. The sound hits the room like breaking glass. Then nothing. Sudden silence after it, like the house itself refuses to continue the moment. She collapses, not dramatically, not slowly. Just like something in her gives up holding itself together. He moves instantly to her side, kneels, checks her. She is breathing but shaking, her eyes open slightly. And she whispers, softer now, broken in half. "Papa, why didn't you come sooner?" He stops moving, everything in him locks. The letters fall from his hand without him noticing. Outside the wind keeps pushing harder, but inside there is no sound at all now except her breathing and the weight of that word. He whispers without meaning to, "No." But she is not fully there anymore. Her eyes are unfocused, not looking at him. Through him. Like she is speaking to something that has been standing behind him longer than he has known. He looks down at the papers again. One name repeats in different handwriting. Not hers, not his. But close enough that his throat tightens, a memory tries to surface and he pushes it at immediately. "No," he says again. Quieter. "Not you." The girl shifts slightly on the floor, still half-conscious. Still caught in something she can't name. "They said it would hurt less if I forgot," she whispers. He doesn't ask who. He already knows he shouldn't. But he does anyway. Who said that? No answer, just her breathing. The wind outside hits the house again, and something in the wood groans like it remembers being older than this moment. He looks at the letters again. One line is visible, a place, a time, a warning written in rushed ink. His jaw tightens. "You shouldn't have been near that," he says, but not to her, to the past. To something that is no longer alive but refuses to stay buried. The girl stirs again, her voice barely there now. "I heard you," she whispers. That breaks him more than the screaming did. He turns fully toward her. "You heard nothing." She shakes her head slowly. "Your voice." He goes still. Outside, the wind suddenly drops. Like something is listening now. He looks at the box again, then back at her. And for the first time, he doesn't have a clean answer ready. The truth is not arriving as explanation anymore. It is arriving as recognition. He reaches out slowly, not touching her yet. "I didn't leave you," he says. But even as he says it, he knows it is not enough. Her eyes close again, not asleep, just retreating. And as she fades back into herself, she whispers one last time, "Papa." This time it is not a question. It is accusation without words behind it. And the house, for the first time, does not respond with sound. Only with silence that feels like it already knows. The sheriff returns. Final time. The knock is not knock anymore. It is weight against wood, controlled, certain, like the house is already owned and just hasn't accepted it yet. "No more talk," he says as the door shakes again. The man is already standing in the doorway before it fully breaks open. He does not step back. He does not reach for anything. He just holds the frame like it is the last thing still belonging to him. "She's not going anywhere," the man says. The sheriff steps inside slowly, boots tracking wet dirt into the floor like marking territory. His face is tired in a way that is not weakness. It is finality. "She never was yours," he says. The man answers immediately. "She is not yours either." A pause, heavy. The kind that feels like something deciding whether to become violence. Behind him, the girl moves for the first time. She steps out from the shadow of the room into open light. "No," she says, every head turns. The sheriff looks at her like he is measuring damage instead of hearing a voice. The man whispers without turning his eyes away from the sheriff. "No, you don't have to." She interrupts him. "I already did." That stops the room more than anything else so far. Even the men behind the sheriff shift slightly like they weren't expecting her to speak like that. Not like fear, not like child. Like decision, the silence stretches. The sheriff exhales slowly. "This is over," he says. The girl takes another step forward. "No, it isn't," she replies. The man finally turns his head toward her. His voice lowers. "Stay behind me." She shakes her head once, not this time. The sheriff watches this exchange like it is the only thing in the room that matters now. His eyes narrow slightly. "You think you're choosing something," he says to her. She answers immediately. "I am." The man steps slightly toward her, his voice tight now. "You don't understand what this is." She turns to him sharply. I remember now that line lands wrong in the room. Not dramatic, not loud, just final. The sheriff's face changes, slightly, a crack in control. "That's not possible," he says. She looks at him directly now, no hesitation. "You were there too." Everything stops. Even the air feels pulled tight. The man turns fully now between them. "What is she talking about?" he demands. The sheriff does not answer immediately. His jaw is tight. A pause too long to be honest. She speaks again before he can control the moment. "You didn't save me." The words are quiet. Not angry, not confused. Certain, the sheriff steps forward slightly. "That's enough," he says quickly. She's confused, but she doesn't move. Doesn't break eye contact. The man looks between them now, something inside him shifting fast. "What does she mean?" he asks again, sharper this time. The sheriff doesn't answer him. He only watches her now. The girl's voice drops lower. "I was there." The man shakes his head once. "No, no, you weren't." She ignores him. "You stood there," she says to the sheriff. "You looked. You didn't stop it." The sheriff's mouth tightens. "That never happened," he says. But his voice is thinner now. The man steps closer to him. "What didn't happen?" he demands. The sheriff finally snaps back. She's mixing things. Old records. Stories. Something she heard. She cuts him off. "I didn't hear it." Silence again. She takes another step closer to the sheriff. "I felt it." The man's breathing changes. He turns slightly toward her now. "This is not possible," he says, but it doesn't sound like denial anymore. It sounds like fear of recognition. The sheriff looks at her carefully now. Carefully enough that it is no longer authority. It is caution. "You were never there," he says again, but softer. She shakes her head slowly. "I was under it." That changes the room. The man's face goes still. "Under what?" he asks quietly. She doesn't answer directly. She just looks at the floor for a moment like she is seeing something beneath it. Then she whispers, "The place you buried." The sheriff takes one step back before he realizes he moved. The man looks at him now fully. "Tell me what she is saying." The sheriff finally speaks through his teeth. "She's not well." The girl looks up at him instantly. "I am the only one who remembers." The room feels smaller now, not because of space. Because of pressure, the man steps between them slightly. "You never told me any of this," he says to the sheriff. The sheriff finally loses patience. "Because it didn't happen like this." That sentence makes everything worse instead of better. The girl points slightly at him. "You were there," she repeats again, not loud. Certain, the sheriff's voice drops. This ends now. The man answers immediately. "No." Not until she says it. The sheriff looks at him now like he is deciding what category he belongs to. Then he says quietly, "You don't understand what you're standing in." The man replies, "Then explain it." A long silence. The girl speaks first again. "You left me there. That is not a question anymore." The sheriff closes his eyes for half a second. When he opens them, something has hardened again. "That didn't happen," he says, but no one believes him anymore. The man turns slowly toward the girl. His voice is lower now. "Tell me exactly." She looks at him, then past him, then back at the sheriff, and says again, softer but clearer, "You buried it." The sheriff finally moves his hand slightly toward his belt, and the man sees it. Everything tightens again. The girl steps forward one last time. "I chose him," she says again, not to the man this time, but to the room itself. The silence that follows is not empty. It is waiting, and no one moves first. Fire burns in the distance, not from their house, not from their fight. Somewhere beyond the broken edges of the town. Something is burning like the world is trying to erase its own memory. The crowd is gone, not gathered, not watching. Just gone in pieces, scattered like they never fully existed together in the first place. The sheriff is gone too, swallowed by the same fracture that split everything open. Only the house remains. And the silence inside it is no longer heavy. She stands in front of him, not behind him now, not hiding, not pulled back into shadows or corners, fully seen. "I'm not leaving," she says quietly. He looks at her for a long moment, the kind of look that carries everything that came before without naming it. "You should," he says. No anger, no command, just exhaustion. She shakes her head once. "No." Oh, a pause. Then she steps closer. "Say it," she says. He doesn't answer immediately. He knows what she means. He knows what word is waiting between them now, sitting there like something that cannot be put back once spoken. He hesitates, her voice drops. Please. That word changes nothing on its own, but everything inside him reacts to it anyway. She lifts her head slightly. Papa. It is not loud, it is not forced. It is not used like a weapon anymore, it just is. He closes his eyes, and something inside him finally stops resisting the sound. The word lands differently now. Not accusation, not rumor. Not the echo of the town or the sheriff or the past. It lands like choice, like it belongs to both of them instead of being taken from either. He exhales slowly, then he kneels, not collapsing, not breaking, choosing to be there at her level. You don't have to call me, that he says quietly. She looks at him without hesitation. I want to, she answers. Silence follows immediately after. Not empty. Just full in a way that doesn't need words anymore. Far away, fire continues to crackle in the distance. No one moves toward it. No one runs from it. It is just there, existing without meaning to interrupt them. He looks at her for a long time, like he is learning how to see her without everything else attached to her. Then he speaks, then stay. 2 words, Sybil. Not a promise dressed up as something larger. Just permission to remain. She nods once. Don't leave me, she says. It is not
fee anymore.
It is not collapse. It is request shaped by survival. He answers without hesitation now. I won't. That is the moment nothing tries to interrupt anymore. No voices under the floor, no knocking, no town, no sheriff, no buried names. Just breath, just space. She stays where she is for a moment longer, like she is waiting for the world to contradict it. It doesn't. She finally steps closer and sits down near him, not behind him, not away from him, just beside him in the same broken quiet. He does not correct her. She does not test him. The word Papa is not spoken again right away. It doesn't need to be, because now it is not something being asked for. It is something being lived. The fire in the distance keeps burning, but it no longer feels like it is coming for them. Only the night remains aware of them. And for the first time, neither of them flinches at silence. They just stay there, not healed, not fixed, but no longer running. And no one corrects the word anymore.